This is a lesson plan I created for my ninth grade small group class. This class follows regular ninth grade standards. However, it is in the small class setting for special education students, as many of these students have reading difficulties and writing difficulties. So this project was called the Fable Creation Project, and in this project, students had to create their own fable to show and understanding a theme. The goal of this lesson was for students to be able to understand theme on a smaller level before we applied it to larger works in the class, such as Romeo and Juliet and Lord of the Flies. So the first thing they had to do was recognize theme in other works. So students used Storynory, which is a website that provides both text and audio for students to explore different stories, and students were to analyze the theme using a graphic organizer. So the following is a graphic organizer they used. They wrote the theme, how it developed, and how do you know, so using evidence from the text. So this is an example of Storynory, what they used. So as you can see, it has an audio here. So students hit play and they can follow along with the text. Now this is great because many of my students are only reading on about a second or third grade reading level in the ninth grade. So this was helpful for them to be able to access the text on their own independently. Next, after students completed the graphic organizer and chose a story on Storynory, they posted their responses on the class Padlet. So we had a class discussion about what different themes we noticed in these stories and any similarities. In addition, why do you think the author included these themes? The students were able to realize that themes could be applied to a variety of people in a variety of different situations. This set the stage for their final project. For their project, they had to create their own story in groups to show theme. So they were creating a fable. They could put it in modern times if they wanted to. Most of them did, in small groups using Google Docs. This was the first step. So the students created the story together on a Google Doc. I also gave them outlined a graphic organizer to follow as they worked, and students collaborated together to create a story that would reflect a theme at the end. Next, students had to transfer their story they created collaboratively to technology. They had a choice of make-believe comics, Google Slides, or Prezi. The majority of my students chose to use Google Slides because they have already used it for past assignments. So here is an example of a page out of one of the stories. The students created a story on Google Slides to present to the class. Next, students had to present. And when students presented their projects, they had a rubric to follow to show what they needed to do for the project. So they had to demonstrate a knowledge of theme. They had to be able to work together collaboratively. Their communication needed to be clear. As a special education teacher, I normally don't grade super harshly on grammar, but I try to make them aware of it and what they need to do. And then lastly, the application, how they applied it to the technology. So overall, the lesson went well. The students were receptive to using the technology. One thing to consider is giving students an incentive to use new tools. I was a little surprised at how very few students wanted to try the make-believe comics or the Prezi. They wanted to use the Google Slides because it was something they had been more familiar with. So in the future, I would maybe give more of an incentive, maybe bonus points to try a new tool, or give more and make sure to incorporate more time. We spent more time on this lesson than I had originally planned because some students started with the Prezi or the make-believe comics and then ended up wanting to change it to Google Slides. So in the future, I would also incorporate more time. But overall, this lesson went very well. Students had to work together collaboratively, and they were able to demonstrate their knowledge of theme through a new and innovative way besides a standard test. Thank you.